Have you ever heard of nuns who defied their vows and lived lives of scandal and luxury? What drove these women to such extremes? And how did they get away with it? In medieval France, certain convents became notorious centers of scandal, with nuns engaging in behaviors that starkly contrasted their vows of chastity and poverty. These so-called prostitute nuns were known for taking lovers, hosting lavish parties, and leading opulent lifestyles, drawing condemnation from both clergy and nobility. Despite their outward appearance of piety, these nuns often led double lives, hidden from the public eye. During the Middle Ages, convents served as religious sanctuaries where women dedicated their lives to spiritual pursuits, renouncing worldly pleasures. However, historical records reveal instances where nuns deviated from these ideals. In some French convents, nuns were notorious for engaging in sexual relationships, indulging in luxury, and participating in festivities that contradicted their religious commitments. Such behaviors led to scandals that tarnished the reputation of monastic institutions. For example, in the 14th century, the nuns of the convent of Saint-Cyr were infamous for their secret liaisons and lavish lifestyles. These actions often led to severe punishments and reforms within the convents. One prominent example is the Abbey of Notre aux Nonnains in Troyes. In the 13th century, the abbess and her nuns resisted the construction of the Church of Saint-Urbain, going so far as to hire armed men to disrupt the building process. This defiance led to their excommunication in 1269. Additionally, in 1448, a nun from the same abbey became a mother, sparking a series of ecclesiastical proceedings that highlighted the moral laxity within the convent. Another case is that of Joan of Leeds, a 14th century English nun who faked her own death to escape convent life and pursue the way of carnal lust. Although not French, her story reflects the broader challenges of enforcing celibacy and discipline within monastic communities during the medieval period. These incidents underscore the complex and often scandalous lives of medieval nuns, revealing the tensions between religious vows and human desires. The misconduct of nuns did not go unnoticed. Church authorities and secular leaders often took measures to address these scandals. For instance, in the early Christian monastic communities, nuns were secluded to avoid scandals, and any deviation from expected behavior led to strict repercussions. In some cases, entire convents were reformed or dissolved to curb immoral activities. The Madelonnettes convent in Paris, originally established to reform prostitutes, evolved into an institution where women suspected of misconduct were confined, often against their will. This transformation reflects the societal efforts to control and reform wayward behavior among nuns. Public punishments and shaming were also employed to deter others from similar misconduct. Church decrees and legal reforms were enacted to ensure stricter oversight and control over convents. The tales of these prostitute nuns have permeated cultural narratives, often highlighting the tension between religious ideals and human desires. Literature and art from the period sometimes depicted nuns in compromising situations, reflecting societal fascination with and condemnation of their transgressions. While the majority of nuns in medieval France adhered to their vows, the actions of a few led to significant scandals that challenged the integrity of religious institutions. These incidents prompted reforms and stricter enforcement of monastic rules, aiming to restore the sanctity and discipline expected within convent walls. Today, these stories continue to inspire modern depictions in films, TV shows, and literature, reflecting an enduring fascination with the complex lives of medieval nuns. Scholars and historians still debate the impact of these scandals, ensuring that the legacy of these prostitute nuns remains a topic of intrigue and study. Alright, let's talk about these so-called prostitute nuns. To really get it, we need to go back in time, way back to the Middle Ages. Think knights, castles, and a whole lot of history. This was a long time ago, from around the year 500 to about the 1400s. Things were changing big time: society, politics, religion, everything. Now, nuns back then, their lives weren't simple. They weren't just praying all day. Many came from rich families, sent to convents for an education, to avoid arranged marriages, or even to gain power within the church. Convents were like schools, places where women could learn, write, make art, and even practice medicine. But it wasn't all good. There were strict rules, lots of expectations, and sometimes the nuns rebelled. The church, it was powerful, really powerful. But even the church had problems. Corruption, scandals, you name it. So, when we hear stories of nuns breaking their vows, we need to remember the bigger picture. It's a story of power, control, and people fighting for freedom in a system that held them back. Looking back helps us understand why these stories came about and what people thought of them at the time. These nuns, their story isn't just about scandal. It's about how society worked, how women's roles were changing in medieval Europe. It's complicated, just like life. As we dig deeper, we'll uncover more and more, peeling back the layers of history. These nuns, their stories are just a glimpse into a world of deep faith, but also lots of human drama. It's a fascinating story, so stick with me. Alright, now that we've set the scene, let's dive into some really interesting stories about nuns from different places. Their lives were full of drama, rebellion, and sometimes even mystery. For example, take Sister Benedetta Carlini from Italy. Back in the 1600s, Benedetta said she had visions and mystical experiences. But get this, what made her story a real scandal was her supposed romantic relationship with another nun. Her story became a big deal, showing both strong religious feelings and human desires, really shaking up convent life. Then, there's the story of the nuns at the San Placido convent in Madrid. In the 1600s, these nuns were accused of being witches, and there was a huge trial. People said they summoned demons and cast spells. It shows how much fear and superstition there was back then. Now let's go to France. We have the story of the Loudun possessions. In the 1630s, some Ursuline nuns in Loudun said they were possessed by demons, which led to a bunch of exorcisms and public shows. This showed how religious people were back then, but also all the political and social problems happening behind the scenes. Over in England, when King Henry VIII closed down the monasteries, it caused a lot of problems for nuns. Many nuns were forced to leave their convents, and their lives were turned upside down. Some figured things out, but others had a hard time in a world that was changing so fast. These stories from all over Europe show us how complicated and sometimes chaotic the lives of nuns could be. They weren't just quiet bystanders, they were right in the middle of it all, dealing with strict rules and unexpected problems. As we keep exploring, we'll find even more stories of bravery, rebellion, and strength. These nuns and their stories show us how tough women have always been throughout history. So stick around as we uncover more secrets and dive deeper into the amazing world of medieval nuns. Wow, we've heard some powerful stories, haven't we? Now let's talk about how people reacted to these events and what changes were made to deal with the nuns who broke the rules. It was a mix of being scared, wanting to be in charge, and trying to fix things. For example, when Sister Benedetta Carlini caused a scandal in Italy, the church took some serious action. Benedetta was watched very closely, and guess what? They locked her up in her own convent. This shows how the church wanted to stop anything that was different from what they thought was normal. Something similar happened in Madrid at the San Placido convent. Nuns were accused of being witches. The Spanish Inquisition, which was like a powerful court, got involved. The nuns were put on trial and questioned harshly, and many were punished severely. People were really afraid of witches and magic back then, and this fear shaped how they reacted. Gap 2S. Over in France, the Loudun possessions, where nuns acted like they were controlled by evil spirits, led to a lot of exorcisms and public shows. The church and the government used these events to show their power, but it also made people wonder if the possessions were real and question the church's role in all of it. Then there's King Henry VIII in England. He closed down many monasteries. Lots of nuns lost their homes and how they made a living. Some nuns went to other countries, while others found new ways to live in England. So, you see, people reacted strongly, often with harsh punishments, to keep things under control. It shows how complicated things were between the church, the government, and the people involved. As we continue, we'll see how these reactions changed the lives of nuns and everyone else during this crazy time. These stories show how strong and resilient women were, even when things were difficult. Stick with us. There's so much more to discover about this fascinating history and how it still affects us today. As we delve deeper into these incredible stories, let's explore how they've been depicted in literature and art over the centuries. These tales of nuns breaking the rules have not only shocked societies, but have also inspired countless works of creativity and reflection. One of the most famous examples is the story of Sister Benedetta Carlini, which has been immortalized in various books and even a recent film. Her life, filled with visions and alleged miracles, has fascinated writers and filmmakers alike. These depictions often focus on the tension between faith and doubt, and the struggle for personal freedom within the confines of religious life. Similarly, the Loudun possessions have been a rich source of inspiration. Aldous Huxley's The Devils of Loudun is a notable literary work that dives into the psychological and social dynamics of the events. This story has also been adapted into plays and films, each exploring the themes of hysteria, power, and the human mind's complexities. In the realm of visual arts, the imagery of nuns in distress or conflict has been a recurring theme. Paintings and sculptures from the Baroque period often dramatize these moments, capturing the intense emotions and spiritual turmoil experienced by these women. The contrast between the serene, pious image of a nun and the chaotic events depicted creates a powerful visual narrative. The cultural depictions of these stories serve as a mirror, reflecting society's evolving attitudes towards religion, authority, and women's roles. By examining these artistic and literary works, we gain deeper insights into how these historical events have shaped and continue to influence our collective consciousness. As we wrap up this exploration, it's clear that the stories of rebellious nuns are more than just historical footnotes. They are tales of resilience, courage, and the complex interplay between personal conviction and societal norms. These narratives continue to inspire and provoke thought, reminding us of the enduring power of the human spirit. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history, culture, and art. Stay tuned for more fascinating stories that reveal the hidden depths of our past and their lasting impact on our present and future. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep discovering.